This is the Lock Haven University Coaches Show from Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall. Good evening on this Tuesday night if you are with us from Haywood's. If you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, we are an hour away from Lock Haven University football action as the Bald Eagles try to make it 3 wins in a row when they travel to Kutztown to face the division-leading Golden Bears of KU. A warm welcome to those of you taking in the show this week. It is episode 8 of the LHU Coaches Show. I'm Jonathan Schwab, and as we have made a likable habit, we are excited to be joined this week to start the show by Lock Haven University head football coach David Taynor. Coach, back-to-back happy weeks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We very excited of finishing up the game on Saturday on the right side of the ledger at homecoming. So it was an exciting game. I think we finished and played extremely well in the second half of the game. So we're excited to move on to Team 8.
After your team fell behind 10-0 early, you got a jolt of electricity from a true freshman, Nasir Mini-Gratz, a 98-yard kickoff return. He showed signs the previous week with 2 punt return touchdowns called back by penalty at Cheney. What makes him so good as a returner?
He does a great job when he gets downhill. I mean, he's a very slashing style runner, has excellent initial burst and good vision. I mean, when he gets going downhill, he makes cuts working vertical. It showed off. And he's very elusive, but he also runs off contact in space pretty well. You know, he started out the year, we had a 75-yard return against Edinboro. Then he had the 2 returns against Cheney that he returned and got called back, and then he finally capitalized on one that counted this past week.
That got your team going, and for that effort, largely, he was named the PSAC East Special Teams Player of the Week. What kind of impact does that recognition have for your program anytime you receive it?
Well, I think it's a great recognition. You know, not only did he have an excellent return, that was probably the cleanest blocked return we had on the year too. We had a great double team. Our kick out block timed up really well, gave him a crease, and if you give him a little bit of crease, he did the rest, and won against the kicker and finished it. And it's great to have that validated. We felt like our what we call our answer team, which is our kickoff return team, because the answer team has to answer after any opponent score or answer the bell at the start of a half. So we call it the answer team, and they got a chance to answer a couple early scores and flip the momentum of the game. And you want to be able to do that with your special teams.
Did his stiff arm on the Millersville kicker get replayed a couple times in the film room?
Yeah, the stiff arm did too, and then they have a freeze frame on the website of him jumping into the end zone. It was. He did an excellent job, and he's a guy who continues to develop every single week, both on special teams and on the offensive side of the ball.
Your defense continues to grow and progress. Outside of scores off turnovers, the defense allowed just 1 score. How are they improving so rapidly?
Well, I mean, it's been a process, and we're playing a lot of guys who were getting their first college experience this year. So, with their first couple games, and they always say that you improve. The biggest amount of improvement is from your first game to your second game. I think when you haven't played college football, it probably took the first couple games for them to just get used to the speed of what's going on. And then as we hit games 3, 4, 5, now up to 7, we've improved every single week. Even you take 3 weeks ago when we played against Shippensburg, I thought we played a pretty good game. We've substantially improved in our fits and what we're doing over the past 2 weeks. So, we're excited about the direction we're going, and we're going to get challenged. We're going to get challenged substantially this week. Team 8 does a phenomenal job of running the football, so we're going to be tested in our fits. And if there was one thing to take from this past Saturday's game was our run fits were what I would call loose. They weren't sloppy. We had guys getting to the right area, but sometimes we were a little bit loose in those fits. We made up for it with great pursuit. So we got to tighten up those fits just a little bit, and that's the challenge this week because we're going to play against a very, very talented running team.
When you say loose, do you mean you said they're in the right spots, just not attacking those gaps as much as they should?
Well, the biggest thing is, when we'd spill, which is getting kind of technical, we'd spill a block. Sometimes we would spill too far inside, and then our scrape fits would be just a little bit wide. So, so we create a little bit of a window, and then our pursuit filled that window relatively quickly. So, we just want to be a little tighter on how we spill things and how we overlap so that we create as little space as possible for running backs to take advantage of.
And for the average football fan, Spill just shedding a block, essentially.
Spill's making the ball go east and west rather than north and south. We don't want to. We want to keep the shortest direction to the end zone is straight in a straight line north and south. So the more you can make it vary off of that line, the better opportunity you have for the 11 guys on defense to get to the ball.
Now that I could have figured out even without a compass. Joined by Lock Haven University head football coach David Taynor on the LHU Coaches Show from Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall. Your team had some difficulty finishing off sacks, getting to the quarterback and finishing plays. 8 sacks against Millersville, or as you referred to them, Team 7. How were you able to effectively impact the quarterback?
Well, number one, it helped having Kevin Chappell back to pretty much full strength. He's a guy that can press the pocket, but we did a phenomenal job all the way across the front of creating pressure. And I think Millersville had struggled with pressure throughout the season. But there were 3 of our sacks in which we rushed 4 and they blocked with 7, and we still got home on them. So, those are high effort sacks, and we're improving substantially as far as getting to the quarterback. I think David Lazo did a great job of pressing the pocket. Clements did a good job of changing directions and being disruptive. Chappell did a good job of forcing the pocket. Even Carmelo, we used Carmelo Cruz a few times as a defensive lineman in some of our lighter packages where we're putting a little bit more speed out there and put him down at defensive end, and he was able to create some impact also.
When we come back from Haywood's on the Green, it's the LHU Coaches Show. We'll have more with Lock Haven head football coach David Taynor. This is the Lock Haven University Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. Thank you for tuning in on this Tuesday evening, or if you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, Saturday afternoon, as we get you ready for Lock Haven University football at Kutztown 1:05 p.m. kickoff from Andre Reed Stadium. Joined by Lock Haven University head football coach David Taynor on the Lock Haven University Coaches Show, and talking about the homecoming win, 29-17 over Millersville. Trailing by a point going into the second half, and you turn to the running game. How are you able to get the running game on track in the second half?
Well, in the first half, we didn't really get into a very good rhythm, and some of our inside runs were they were pinching quite a bit with their defensive ends, kind of clogging the inside and what we're doing, and we didn't necessarily get into a rhythm. We had a drive that we killed on a 3-play 9-yard drive, which is one that hurts you because you're setting at 4th and 1. We had to kick it away, in which we didn't get as much progress as what we would like inside. So the plan in the second half was to come out and was kind of stretched to the perimeter a little bit, opened that up right away. Ralph Highland did a great job and hit a couple decent runs. Then he hit a 48-yard run on outside zone, which kind of stretched him back out a little bit, and was able to do that a decent amount in the second half. And then we closed the game by getting back into some of our inside run game with running some true power O. And John Ford on the last drive, I think we had 8 carries for. We had 8 plays for 90 yards, and of which 6 of those were just running power with him. And I think he averaged about 9 yards a carry on those 6 carries. So, did a good job there. The offensive line did a great job throughout the day. One thing to give those guys some definite credit right now, we're sitting in a position where we're in the top 20 in the nation in sacks allowed. Meaning we're in the best 20 teams in the country right now, and we throw the ball substantially more than a lot of those other teams have. The last 2 weeks, we've ran the ball for over 200 yards, and we've started to, establish our run game, and those guys are being catalysts for that. So, a lot of that falls into their hands of doing a good job, and it's been a somewhat of a patchwork crew too, because we've had quite a few guys that we expected to be starters that are either injured or dinged up or not taking as many reps right now as what they were at the start of the year. But the next guy up has come in and done a phenomenal job.
Your team trailed in this game 10-0 and didn't just win it, won it by 2 scores. How does that make you feel in terms of the development of your program, that you had a group of guys who faced adversity, came back, and then finished?
Well, it's an important part of the process. To win games, you have to be able to win games, and sometimes they'll say win games ugly, which really means win games when you face adverse situations or have to make a comeback or make some things happen when you didn't necessarily expect to be in that position. You can't control the events that happen. You can only control the responses that you have. And it shows that we're maturing. Even though we're a young group, those guys are getting game repetitions and they're learning how to perform in tough situations. So, I think it was extremely important for us to get the win, but also to get a win in which we had to come back and come back from a little bit of a deficit and, focus on playing good football to make it happen.
Joined by Lock-Haven University head football coach David Taynor on the LHU Coaches Show. We are live every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. till 7:30 at Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall. If you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, we are about 45 minutes away from Lock-Haven University football LHU on the road at Kutztown. And Coach, Kutztown, Team 8 on the schedule. What would be your brief synopsis of this Kutztown squad?
Well, I think Team 8, from an offensive perspective, they do a very good job of running the football. This past game, they ran for over 400 yards versus East Stroudsburg, or will soon be known as Team 10. They did a good job of there, and they did really well with their inside zone. And I kind of pointed it out and talked about how we did a great job with our pursuit, but maybe our fits were a little bit loose. We need those fits to be tighter this week. They have a very talented running back that can make things happen. So we need to tighten it up, and we're going to challenge our guys to step to the plate on that. And I think they'll be up to the challenge. It's going to be necessary though that we tighten everything up. We pursue the football, play great team defense, and from a defensive perspective, they've grown a lot, very similar to what I would say with our defense from the start of the year till now. Against Seton Hill, they gave up, I think it was over 500 yards passing in that game. It's not the same defense. They made some personnel changes. You can tell that they've focused on not giving up the easy ones, very similar to us at the start of the year, and they're going to make teams earn it. So it's going to be very important for us to be sound in what we do, protect the football, and take advantage of opportunities when they're there. And our guys need to continue to step up and be playmakers, and we'll still lean behind our offensive line and expect those guys to do a great job in protection.
Our One for Fun with David Taynor for week number 8. I know you have an extensive strength training, weight training background. What is your favorite weight room exercise?
Well, it would have to be squat. I was a pretty big squatter, but I do have the unfortunate distinction of being probably the only person on earth who has squatted over 800 pounds and has a brother who squatted 300 pounds more than him. My brother's a multi-world championship powerlifter, has an all-time best in the 242 class of 1,170 pound squat, and has 1,180 pound squat in the 275 class. So I hope I got those numbers right, but he's been a multi-world record holder in squat. So I got that distinction of doing it, but I'd much rather have a bar on my back than a bar in my hands.
I'm trying to process that in a professional way. 1,175 pounds. I can't do it. What the heck?
It's not normal human action.
It does not sound that way, although to me 800 sounds like an awful lot. So
there isn't too many people that have done that either.
Lock-Haven University head football coach David Taynor, thank you for the time, and good luck at Kutztown.
Right, thank you very much.
When we come back on the LHU Coaches Show, we'll be joined by Lock-Haven University head women's soccer coach Kathy Brown. This is the Lock-Haven University Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. And we are back from Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall on this Tuesday evening. We're here every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. until 7:30. I'm Jonathan Schwab. This is the Lock-Haven University Coaches Show. If you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, we are nearly half an hour, maybe 38, 39 minutes away from kickoff of Lock-Haven University football as the Bald Eagles try to make it 3 wins in a row on the road at Kutztown. Thrilled to be joined right now for the second time this year by Lock-Haven University head women's soccer coach Kathy Brown. Coach, great to have you back on the show, and it's been a nice stretch for your team over the last couple weeks. 3 wins in 5 games over a period of about 2 weeks. Wins over Clarion, Pitt Johnstown, and Mansfield. How are you able to get the girls to a place where they had some fairly consistent success?
Right. Well, I think that we're in a great time of year right now. The girls have been working hard from the very beginning, and I think for a coach, I've seen lots of improvement from the day we started to where we are now, which is absolutely what you want to see in a program. And we're kind of riding on a little bit of a high, and, when you struggle to win games and you can get, 3 points in the conference with a win, that's huge, and it's a lot of fun, and I think the girls get that taste, and I'm like, this is what it's all about, and so they're rolling with that, and it's certainly enjoyable.
When you're still searching for the success you're talking about, usually you see a team that has a little bit of a tough time in close games. Not the case in the run of success that you've had. All 3 of those wins, 1-goal games. How has your group been able to do that?
Well, again, I think that it's a matter of just fighting through. I think that we're working very, very hard to get results. There's no give-me's. We're, we have to work for every single second, and it comes down to seconds sometimes to get those wins. And, again, I tell the girls if we struggle to put the ball in the back of the net, that we just have to keep fighting and working and get it however we can get it, and that's what they're doing.
Your defense went through a stretch where it did not allow a goal for 6 consecutive halves, including 2 full games. And really, the time period even longer than that, because that includes a double overtime thriller at Mansfield. How were they able to pull that off?
I think the back line is solid right now, and they've been together. We've been consistent and playing time, which, is not good for some of the girls coming off the bench because they're not getting in. But the back 4 that have been starting every game, they've been playing a lot of minutes, and you see them continue to get better and better as the games go on. And that's just, they've developed good unity back there. They know each other and how they play and how they move. And as the season has gone on, it's evident that they're doing well. And our goalkeeper, Bree Hilty, she's a local talent that is just getting better and better every game, and I'm proud of that whole group back there.
How would you assess from day one to where your team is now, the progress that they have made?
Well, I keep coming back to how proud I am. I think, we started and I was new and they were new, and they've worked so hard from the minute they got here until now. We're 2 weeks out to our very last game of the season. And they've continued to just give me everything they have and fight for each other. And again, I think that's really hard to do for coaches to see that progress throughout the whole season, but they're doing it. It's textbook as far as, there haven't been any dips, and we're peaking when we need to peak, and they're getting better and better. So that I'm proud of them for that.
Joined by Lock Haven University head women's soccer coach Kathy Brown on the LHU Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network. We are live at Haywood's on the Green in Mill Hall on this Tuesday night. If you're listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, moving closer to Lock Haven University football at Kutztown. Your first run through, Kathy, in the PSAC. What's your impression of the conference?
I love the conference. It's I think about, I had phone calls when I first took the job, and some of the coaches welcoming me, and they kind of chuckle about, how competitive the conference was. And until you see it, you don't really know. And I think that it's a lot of fun knowing that on any given day, any given team can win any game. And that gives players hope, that gives coaches hope, and I think it's very competitive. But it's also, everyone is hopeful that they can make it to that conference tournament, that they can win on any given day. And again, I love the competition, and it's been fun, and I am enjoying the ride.
You're in a situation where you see every team only once in the conference. So how much of, this is how they're going to scheme against us and game plan against us goes into the file for future reference?
Right. Well, I think that, my experience as a coach, I think that, we do scouting reports and all of that stuff. So there's lots of preparation. And as the season goes on, you get better and better because there's more games that have been played and you can get your information that way. But a nice thing that we have in the PSAC, they implemented where we have videotaping that we have to post every game. So we're watching live film, it's not live film, but it's been videotaped, and we're watching these film of games where you're not just relying on coaches' scouting reports, but you can actually watch the film for yourself. Our players can watch the film, and so there's lots of education that can happen in figuring things out and as to how we are going to what we are going to do, what lineups we're going to make, what changes we're going to make to be able to try to get these wins in. So that's super helpful to be able to watch those games.
What areas would you like to see continued improvement from your team over the last couple weeks of the season?
I think we're still working to play quicker. I'm a big fan of speed and agility and all of those things, and I think that to some degree that's just going to have to be a future plan for the program and what we look to recruit and those sort of changes. But for now, I will always continue to push the girls to play at speed, to play hard, to push fast, and to work hard for 90 minutes. And I think that you can always work to improve on that, and with these last few games that we have ahead of us.
You mentioned recruiting. Once the season's over, you head full-fledged into your first recruiting cycle as the head coach and the leader of the women's soccer program at Lock Haven. What are your recruiting priorities?
Well, I have a ton of recruiting priorities in that, I haven't had an opportunity. Most of these girls, came to me from the previous coach, and he did a good job with these players that I have. But I think some changes I personally would like to see. If you look at our lineup, we are very small. Nothing against small girls, but we need to have a little bit more size because there's times where we just can't win balls in the air that we're not getting to. And I'm looking to add that speed, that raw athleticism, and a little bit more power in our bodies. So we'll look to change that. But we graduate only 3 seniors, and so I'm really looking to build and develop and work with the girls that we have. And then the recruiting is going to be just some changes to kind of put the icing on the cake as we continue to build with the base that we have right now. So,
our one for fun with Kathy Brown. Who were the leaders as you were developing your style as a leader yourself who really influenced you?
Well, first, I have to say this, and I'm sure he'll be listening, but I have to say that my dad has always been a great leader for me and how he works and how he gives and how he loves and all of the things that he has done. And he wasn't a coach, but we can relate on a lot of ways as to the way he goes about and approaches things and working with people, and I have a lot of respect for him and how he's done things in the work world. And it's fun to sit down and we discuss how we do things, and even though our professions were completely different. So I definitely have a lot of respect in modeling his leadership roles. And then I also think that I was coached by Becky Burley, who's the head women's soccer coach at University of Florida, and she's done great things there, won a national championship. And I call her all the time and ask for advice and watch what she's doing, and I think that she's doing great things now. And she, helped us win a championship when I was in college, and so she's always been someone that I've looked to. I love how she's been successful in the things that she's done, and the biggest thing is with both of those two people is how they approach people and putting people first over all other things. And so, I like to model everything that I do in those ways.
Lock Haven University head women's soccer coach Kathy Brown, thank you so much for coming on the show, and great success to you and your program over the final couple weeks of 2016.
Thank you so much for having me.
That'll do it for this week's edition of the Lock Haven University Coaches Show. Thanks to the 2 coaches who joined us tonight, David Taynor and Kathy Brown. If you are listening on the Bear Country Sports Network, coming up next, Lock Haven University football, the pregame. Nate Carpenter and I will get you ready for Lock Haven at Kutztown. If you came to join us at Haywood's tonight, thanks for coming out. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. For our entire Bear Country Sports Network crew, I'm Jonathan Schwab, and this has been the Lock Haven University Coaches Show, presented by the Bear Country Sports Network.